Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are on this planet. Because I'm sure, like all of us, we're all a little bit relieved. Because half an hour before, I was thinking, this is going to be a little bit depressing. However, thank the Lord for Sir Trossard. So, I- I'm trying to calm down. Young Christopher, nice to be podding with you again, podcast bro.
Yes, you too, you too. And as we were just talking about off air, I thought this would be quite a rage-infused podcast tonight. But thankfully, it's a few podcast. It's a wipe the sweat from your brow, take a deep breath, and ultimately say, do you know what? Sometimes you've just got to say, I'll take that. We'll just take that and move on with our lives.
We will. And off the substitutes bench was our Merv. Merv, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I mean, obviously, had things not turned out that way, then it would have been the worst substitution of all time, probably. But it's no. I thank you for having me on. I know the last time I was on, I made a couple of assertions about the transfer market that people didn't like. So I'm not going to be controversial tonight.
Oh, Merv, we love it when people are controversial. This pod is not a loving. We can say whatever we feel, honestly, even though someone did accuse us of having a loving. I don't really know why, because all
No.
three, and Cookie unfortunately couldn't be with us tonight. Me, Cookie, and Chris often disagree. But tonight we're not going to disagree on the fact that we were goddamn lucky that it ended up how it ended up. I mean, from my perspective, I was okay with the team. Particularly would have liked to have seen Party playing instead of Jorginho, but I wasn't that unhappy when the team came out, Chris and Merv. And I was absolutely distraught when they went in at half time. And I was hoping young Mikel was going to throw some teacups around because that was the worst first half performance. I think when we do play bad, God, do we play bad, Chris?
Yeah. I've just, I know I said I didn't, but I've just had a quick look at Rice's comments, Declan Rice's comments just in the post match. And he did say it's that first half was the worst we'd played all season.
Yeah.
I'd posit to suggest that actually it's the worst that we've played since Everton away from last season. And if you think about some of the defeats towards the end of the season as we just sort of fell apart through injuries and stuff, that Everton result felt as depressing as the first 75 minutes against Chelsea tonight, because for 75 minutes I saw a team that weren't creating any chances. The passing was sloppy. There were players that just went missing, and I love a bit of a Martin Odegaard loving, but again we can talk about this in a bit. But he went missing. There were just so many of them were just off key tonight, and to bring it back, I think ultimately we can talk about the disappointments, but at the end of the day, we've just scraped back a 2-2 draw, and you have to talk about the character of the team to come back, I think.
Absolutely. Merv, I mean, look, I was quite hopeful. I was on the radio this morning, about 8:15 in the morning with another Chelsea fan on Radio 5 Live. I wasn't cocky at all. I was just confident. And they asked me for a prediction. And Chris knows I hate doing predictions. But I went with what I said a week ago, that we were going to win 2-1. And I think the Chelsea fan thought they were going to win 1-0. And I got off there and I thought, oh, I don't like being confident. I really don't like this. And I can't honestly win for losing and things, because I've got tweets from people going, you sounded too confident. And someone said, you've made me nervous now. I wasn't confident. I truly believed that we could go there and win 2-1. And you know what? If we'd have even turned up half of our performance in the first half and Raya didn't do what he did, we probably could have won it, couldn't we?
Could have done. I think that the biggest disappointment is seeing the first hour, the kind of everything that because we can see what Mikel's tried to do, how he's possibly moved us on from last season, and how we're controlling games slightly differently now. And yeah, I mean, last season I was going week in, week out, never expecting to lose. And I'll be honest, I've started this season the same way. And I wasn't a little bit concerned because London Derby, and they've begun to show a bit of form. And to be honest, I thought, well, worst way would be a draw. But I was surprised at how easy it seemed for them to stop us playing our game. which we've imposed ourselves on so many teams so far this season, and for most of last season, playing the way, keeping control, controlling the possession, keeping it where we want it. And it was just, I know, individual errors. But it was just we seemed incapable of doing that in the first hour.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, as I said, when we play bad, we're atrocious. We're not even a little bit bad. We couldn't string a pass together. We were sloppy. And giving the ball back to Raya before his mistake and stuff was in a wet conditions. It was pouring there. The pitch
Mm.
is slippy. Stop giving it to the bloody goalkeeper. Um, no one played well first half. I sat there and I thought to myself, if I had to give a man of the match, I couldn't do it. I actually couldn't do it. Um, Chris, I've got a question actually. So I thought it was when I first saw it, I said to Carl, that's handball by Saliba, first instant. Yeah. Then play goes on for quite a while. And Carl said to me, they won't bring it back now. And I said, but Gary Neville says it's going to be a penalty. And I'm getting confused because we carried on playing for quite a while. Now, if we would have scored, this is the question I've asked, and no one can answer this. If in those moments we would have scored, would the goal been allowed? Because obviously they've pulled it back for a penalty. Would it have been given or disallowed and brought back for a pen? These rules are ruining football. And as I was just talking to Merv off air, we come from the 1970s watching football. And it was so much more. I'm sorry, for me, I enjoyed football a million times better in the 70s and 80s and 90s than this nonsense. I didn't even know what was going on. And I said, well, surely they can't bring it back now. It's ages. They wait for a break in play. What happens if there wasn't a break in play for 10 minutes? Then what happens? So,
Mm.
does anyone know the rules? Can anyone
Well,
enlighten me?
well, Hatchie 964 has said they'd disallow it. I'm not sure they would, and I don't know, so I'm just having a guess. So please feel free to just call me an idiot or whatever it is. I'm fine, but I would have thought that the stoppage doesn't. So the referee in game has said that's not a penalty. You play on, so you're playing on until there's a stoppage in place. So if Arsenal score, it's still in place. So I think they would have allowed it. However, what I suspect they'd have done is he'd have then said, right, well, now I need to have a look at the screen because that's the next passage of play that breaks down. And so, because you have to have a stoppage in order to check VAR. So what I think would happen is that Arsenal would go 1-0 up, and then he'd probably look at the screen and say, well, actually, then that's a penalty. And so, I don't even know. Because
No,
then would
people are
he
saying
say,
it would be disallowed. They
Yeah, it
would.
would be disallowed. I'm pretty sure it would be
But then,
because
oh,
what they're saying is the game should have stopped at the
for a
point
penalty?
where the handball.
It's going to
and do you know
happen
what, Merv?
eventually, isn't it? It's going to
It will
happen one
happen
day.
one day, yes.
I honestly, because Carl was arguing with me, going, well, Gary Neville's got it wrong. But he kept going, that will be given when it's looked back. Well, how can it be given? We're playing on. It's a massive passage of play now. And I'm sitting there going, well, as if we would have scored. And I swear, honestly, it is the worst. This VAR and the referee. Listen, I'm not one of these that watches Arsenal through rose tinted glasses. I will say if a referee's okay and everyone's slating him, he didn't give us anything, and that Cucurella fella should have been sent off ages before. He should have been booked. First time he took out Saka, I was fuming. I'm sick of it because we do one foul and we get a yellow card. I mean, I'm not on a conspiracy theory. I just think the ref was appalling tonight. Chris, Chris, we've decided, right? So let's just chat. So when I thought it was a penalty, then all this passage of play, your initial thoughts can be wrong. And when I first saw it, when I saw it on replay, it's like, how's he supposed to jump without arms?
I
I
don't know.
can't jump without arms, and I'm not a footballer, so I wouldn't know. So he's a tall fella, Saliba. He's still got to jump. He's got to raise. He's a big boy, isn't he? He's got to raise himself. Now, normally me and Carl will argue to the hilt. We both agreed on this straight away and went, that's not a penalty. But the minute he's going over to that screen, you might as well just not bother going to the screen because they're going to give penalty. There's all this, it's at Stamford Bridge. If it's 50-50, he's going to give it. Now, I want to know, Chris, did you think it was a penalty?
No. And the reason why is because, and also Jamie Redknapp at half time had a really, really good debate with Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, where Jamie Redknapp was effectively saying you can't jump without raising your arms. And somebody I saw on my Twitter made a joke, which was Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, a man that spent a career with his arms in the air, elbowing people, thinks that was a penalty. Quite interesting, that one. I think even I hate to invoke his name because he's a horrible human being, but John Terry even said he'd be furious if that was him. So you've got even partisan Chelsea fans that are suggesting, it probably wasn't a penalty. I think if the arm is raised like that and it hits without any kind of touch, then you're probably saying, well, we had one of those with Romero in the North London derby a few weeks ago. His arm was up, the ball was going in, it struck it, it's a penalty. But it's the fact that it deflects off of Mudrik's head, because if Mudrik hadn't have touched that at all, it would have just come off of Saliba's chest, because the way the ball comes in. So for me, it's not, you can't do that. If it's a deflection like that, it can't be a penalty, and it shouldn't be a penalty, and it's just the rules of the game which are stupid.
I think, it's interesting that you've given kind of, what Hasselbank said and everything. He was a striker, so he obviously wants a penalty. Psychologically, he's used to seeing that and saying that's a pen, whereas Terry's a defender who knows those things happen and doesn't want to be penalised, and I suppose. It depends where you used to play. So it's for a midfielder or defender, it's like they don't like to see those given, whereas a striker will appeal for anything. So I don't know if there's a little bit of that in terms of what the summarisers was saying. The frustrating thing is how long the game can go on before a decision is made.
Absolutely, 100. So what would have happened if we would have scored? There's that question. How long is it going to go on for? And also as well, what I don't understand is if I still can't get this. Say there would have been a red card. Say we would have got a penalty. Say it would have got, because it went down the other end. Say that would have happened, but. For me, Saliba, the minute I see Gary Lineker sticking up for an Arsenal defender, I know we're done. Okay. I know that it's 100% not a penalty because Gary Lineker cannot stand us. Gary Neville, I can't even listen to him anymore. However, he did say it is a penalty by the rules of the laws.
Yeah.
But the law's wrong. And no one really understands it anymore. Ball to hand, hand to ball. But you're right, Chris. I never really thought about it like that. It's come off his head and he's midair. What do you want people to do? To jump without? So for you, is it a penalty or not, Chris?
No.
Merv?
No. But then, if it was at the other end, then of course I'd be thinking it was a penalty. It's one of those that's impossible, and VAR hasn't solved that, because we watch football as fans and therefore we're partisan, and therefore Chelsea fans would probably say thank God for VAR, because that's the kind of thing that wouldn't have been given in the past. Whereas we can look at it from the other side saying, but that should never have been given. There was a reason why that wouldn't have been given before VAR, because it's not a clear and obvious error.
Yeah, but Hatchie964 goes, I guess a red or yellow card would have stand, PG. Well, this is what I mean. I guess no one knows anything. Who knows? I mean, we'd have sitting here going, well, are we going to have a player sent off now because we've just caused a red card, but they've gone back for a penalty, which this passage of play shouldn't have been playing? I'm sorry. They need to get me in the FA or wherever it is, PGML. They need normal people with sensible heads. If that referee was told in his ear that Saliba handballed, stop the game. Stop it instantly and go and look at the screen. I've got no issues with it. If people think it's a handball, you are not going to tell me you're going to play for because I tell you now, if we would have scored, I reckon our players would have walked off the pitch. Because I can't. Anyway, I'm not going to go on about that because I wanted to calm down. So we go 1-0 down. We're playing awful. The weather's terrible. We can't string a pass, Chris. And I kept thinking, just go in 1-0 at half time, because this is so going to be a game of two halves. I couldn't have been more wrong, to be honest, because out we come, and then Well, you could have written the script that Mudryk was going to score against us, but I said the whole game that Chelsea are not very good. It's just we're not. Anyone would have beaten Chelsea tonight. Anyone decent, they're really not very good, Chris. So
Yeah.
I felt a bit more positive second half. I was up for it a little bit. It brings Tommy on for Zinchenko, who was having a nightmare, in my opinion. I thought that was the right decision. Um, what's your thoughts on the first? Well, when did he score? What minute? I can't remember. It's all a bit of a
Mudryk
blur.
scored on the 48th minute, so we're 3 minutes into the game. But just to go back, I just want to dial back to the first half a little bit. Can we talk about the Thiago challenge on
Oh,
Martinelli?
yeah.
Because I'm a bit confused now, because I thought it doesn't matter if you win the ball, but if you go in 2-footed and you're off your feet, isn't it considered to be reckless? I'd be interested in your views on that, Murph, because for me, I looked at that and thought, you've gone in 2-footed, doesn't matter that you won the ball. Referee's got to say, sorry, mate, you're off.
Yeah, I was making notes because I knew I was on tonight, and Thiago tackle is there. This is what I don't. This is the inconsistency, and VAR is supposed to kind of iron out the inconsistencies, but it's we either have something where everything is looked at, so the game lasts about 3 hours because every tackle that could be interpreted one way or the other then has to be stopped and looked at. Or I don't know if we'll end up with a kind of something like that having cricket where each captain has like 5 challenges a game or something. That I think would be awful because people would then use it for time wasting. But it's so inconsistent. That's the problem. It's you're quite right. We've seen Arsenal players, yellow carded and in past red carded for tackles like the one Thiago made, and that could have taken Martinelli out the game. He was off the surface, as someone's just pointed out there. It was straight. It was reckless, and yet it was. It's almost like the rest don't see it. They see certain things and not others.
But can I say, Merv, they would have seen
Yeah.
it if it was Xhaka. Xhaka would have been off for that. And I'd go back, even though he's not playing for us anymore. And I said the same thing online to a non-Arsenal fan who sort of agreed with
Yeah.
me. And what infuriates me more, and I need to explain this to everybody, there's no such thing as consistency because all refs have different opinions on what things are. So we could all sit here and say it's not a penalty. I've got 2 people on my Twitter timeline, Arsenal fans, who thought it was a penalty. So I think with penalties, we're just going to have to let them go. There's nothing we can do. But in the laws of the game, that 2-footed tackle, because I kept saying to Carl, that's a red card. That is a red card. Carl went, I think it's a yellow. I said, why would you give a yellow for that? It's either a red or nothing. You can't give a yellow card for a 2-footed tackle off the floor. But it does seem, Merv, that against us, we don't get it. Saka has to be injured before seriously something's going to happen.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
has to be brought down 4 times before a yellow card is brandished. You know what I'm saying?
Brandished.
Yeah. I know
I
what you
can't even
mean.
say it
No, I
properly. You
know
know
what
what I
you mean.
mean? I'm not even
No.
drunk. But yet we'll do one foul and it's a straight, and we know it's a yellow. So it's not consistency. I don't know what it is because you can't have consistency with referees because it's all about opinions. It's just sometimes I feel there is, I don't even know what to say, not a conspiracy against us, but I do feel hard done by at times, if I'm honest. Now, I do talk to many people that I work with, no one are Arsenal, West Ham and stuff like that, and they'll point out their, you know, points where VAR hasn't worked for them. And I could literally do every one. I could do 10. I could do 10. I go, that yellow card on Saka came an hour later, should have been straight off. The only good thing about tonight is no one time wasted. There wasn't any time wasting in this whole game. This referee it should have been easy for him to referee this. There wasn't any nastiness. There wasn't any, handbags thrown or anything like that. But there was some bad tackles that he did not look at, but he did for them. I don't even know how many of our players have got yellow cards. However, Cucurella was driving me mad until he got a yellow
Yeah.
card. We would never have got away with that if that was Ben White. The crowd are up for it. And you heard Gary Neville going, yeah, he's made himself known to Saka. Like it's okay. Like it's okay. Can't talk
Well,
about Gary Neville anymore.
yeah,
Anyway,
back in the days when Gary Neville started, that's what you did as a defender. You put your foot in so they knew you were there.
fine.
But
And
yeah,
I
I
I
mean,
would want my defenders to do that, Merv. But the second time you do it, then you
yeah,
need to get a yellow card.
oh, of course. The Cucurella, I couldn't understand it because it was just it was the more that he wasn't clamped down, or even the ref spoke to him and said, "Look, you know, if you do that again, I'm going to book you." The less interference, the more he got away with it. So it's kind of, he would carry on. You know, defenders do that sometimes. They carry on because until the ref like waves a finger or says something or books them. And then they ease off. And that's been the same. Well, I say over the years. You were talking about years ago. Yeah, I mean, it's they used to let a lot more go beforehand. But in the way the game is played and refereed now, it's and the way players are as well, so nimble. You can end someone's career easily.
Merv, do you remember that tackle? And we're going to go to the second half in a moment.
Yeah,
When Roy Keane took out Patrick Vieira within minutes at Highbury,
yeah.
he took him out so badly
Mm,
that he could have actually gone for it. He didn't even get a yellow. Now, if that was Arsenal, 3 minutes in, it'd have been off the pitch.
mm,
But I couldn't guarantee if it was the other way around that that other player would have been off the pitch. And this is what drives me insane. Anyway, moving on. Let's go into the second half, Chris. So I felt more confident. I thought he's gonna get this right, Arteta. Maybe make a sub at half time. It doesn't normally, however, he did with Kamiasu and Zinchenko. And I felt more confident coming out. It's a bit more positive. I don't know why. And then 3 minutes in, Mudryk steps up, scores an incredible goal that was fluky, of course, but it was still incredible, whatever way you look at it. And David Raya's in no man's land.
Yeah, I mean, we do have to have a conversation about David Raya now because at Man City, we had a slightly worrying turn of events. He wasn't great against Tottenham. These are big games that
Yeah.
he's not performing in. And if Arteta really is going to be true to his word about having two top keepers and giving both keepers opportunities, then I know we know today that Ramsdale obviously had a child yesterday, and so congratulations to him. I'm sure he's at home and relieved that his team have picked up a draw. But I think if you're going to use the word meritocracy, and if you're really going to have everyone bought in, then does need to be a situation where you're going to give Ramsdale a chance, because Ramsdale hadn't really made any mistakes. He got pulled out. Now, there's arguments that I've seen on some of my WhatsApps and stuff that, well, Arteta wants essentially his goalkeeper to play as a left centre back, and Ramsdale doesn't really do that, and so that's why he's putting him in. If that's the case, then there is no future for Ramsdale, and we should make some money for him. But I'm not seeing from David Raya such a increase in quality that Ramsdale can't give us. And I think if that had happened to Ramsdale, people will be saying, yeah, well, Ramsdale makes those kind of mistakes. We need to start saying these things about Raya too.
So my feeling is this. I was talking to Carl during the game. Of all the positions, Merv, that we needed filled in this season in the transfer window, goalkeeper would never have come to my head. Never. It would never have gone, yeah, that Ramsdale is a bit dodgy. Now, Carl's argument is that Raya's stats for Brentford are better than Ramsdale's stats for Arsenal. I don't go on stats anyway. I've never. I just work on whether Ramsdale, I think, is good enough to be number one in our goal. Now, I had no issue with that. When he bought Raya, I thought, well, this is nice. He's quite a good goalkeeper for our number two. And then it obviously came to light that he wasn't intending to be our number two. Now, just to pick up on what Chris said about City, Arteta came out after City and said he told Raya to play like that. So I'm not going to go on that. Today, with the Mudryk situation, it couldn't have come at a worse time. 48 minutes, 2-0 down. I felt like someone needed to go and put an arm round Raya. I don't know if they did, because obviously we don't see everything on TV. I think someone needed to give him a bit of a boost somehow. But it's concerning me a little bit because I do not feel, Merv, that Ramsdale deserved to be dropped. And now I don't feel, because I feel if he was on the bench today, would Arteta have had the guts to swap him? Because you can't. No, I don't. I don't think so either, Chris. But he wasn't, so we would never know, and he probably wouldn't have. However, I don't understand this situation with Ramsdale. I knew his wife was pregnant quite a few months ago. I follow them both on Instagram, and I just felt maybe he's got a goalkeeper because he knows he's going to go through sleepless nights and having a baby. And Carl's like, it's absolutely nothing to do with that. I said, but why do we need to swap goalkeepers? Um, what's your feelings on this situation?
Well, firstly, I love Super Mick. I think he's brilliant. I think that he possibly has a tendency to overthink things and to maybe try too hard to cover lots of different potential situations. When we signed Ramsdale, I remember, because I wasn't here, I was away, and there was a lot of grief on Twitter because one of the
Yeah.
guys I was talking to at the hotel where I was a Bournemouth supporter. And he said to me, "You're signing a fantastic goalkeeper." I said, "Well, just looking at Arsenal fans on Twitter," I said, "you wouldn't think so." He said, "Trust me, I saw him for a whole season. Yes, we got relegated, but we were going to get relegated anyway." He saved at least two or three certain goals every game. And I watched it with that kind of, I watched him through the first season with that kind of thought in mind. And he did. He did things that I wasn't aware he could do. We all know the same from Madison and things like that. Like you, I didn't think he needed to be replaced. Obviously, Matt Turner needed first team football because it's he's going to be keeping goal for the USA in the next World Cup and their hosts, so he needs regular football. Raya seemed like a great opportunity to have a Premiership ready backup, but yeah, it's now complicated by this wanting the goalkeeper to play as this like left centre back and keep possession to the very last second, and he doesn't necessarily trust Ramsdale to do that without giving it away. But Raya has got supposedly superior footwork who could dodge a tackle, and I'm just worried this is overthinking it a bit. I get that he doesn't want, when the goalkeeper gets the ball, he doesn't want him to just boot it upfield. We want to control how we pass the ball and progress it through the pitch. But I think that this is about 3 games on the trot now where we've had very nervy situations. We've definitely conceded a goal already tonight from it. Could have conceded another one. As same against City. So I don't know if he's now going to go back to the drawing board and rethink this, or if he's going to dig in and say, no, we've got to go through these errors to get it right. I don't understand it. It's unusual in obviously the top leagues to have 2 number 1 goalies. And you're right. I assumed like Ramsdale would maybe play in Europe and Raya in the league, but it doesn't look like it's going to be like that. So I think he's got a decision to make. I do not want Ramsdale to go because I think he's a fantastic character, and I think he gets the crowd going, and I think the team love him. And Raya is possibly trying too hard. I don't know. It's maybe he feels under pressure that isn't there. Or maybe he's not comfortable playing this way with having to hold on to the ball to the last moment. But, I mean, Mudryk, I don't think it was attempting to chip Raya into the far corner. I think he was crossing for Sterling.
No, come on, Amanda. I'm not having this. If you look at the way his body shape is, and then you look at the way that he literally digs the ball out. He wasn't looking. He didn't look up once at Raya's positioning. He flicks the ball out. It goes in, and then he's almost as shocked as everyone else. And he turns to the Chelsea fans and obviously giving it the big one. But I'm not having that. That was a complete fluke.
I don't know, because I looked at a different angle maybe, and I just thought he actually meant that. A lot of people are on with you, Chris, but I mean, obviously, it's neither here nor there. He should have been positioned better. We're now 2-0 down at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea are not even playing that well. We can't put a pass together, and now we're sitting there going, "Well, do you know what? Didn't expect this." They haven't even turned up for the second half. But I always felt, and I didn't think we'd win it, of course, but I always felt if we got a goal, we could get another one because they're not that good. You know, we're not playing City here or say Liverpool or on form Spurs at the moment. They're not that good. So what we've got to do is calm down and try and put a pass together. And for me, the moment it changed when I started to feel more positive, and I was saying this to you off air, Chris, was when Raya made the other mistake and then rectified it and got the ball off his legs and he threw the ball out. And for some reason at that second, I thought he looks a bit confident, Raya, there. That's helped him. So he's made a mistake and he's made up for it. And then all of a sudden the team put a pass together and I was like, this is better. This is better. I don't know what minute of the game that was, but this is better. But talk to me about these substitutions he keeps making that are making the difference.
I mean, I think it shows a level of maturity that Arteta has shown over the last few years, and certainly this season, he's getting them right. The substitutions against Man City all combined to score us the winning goal. Fantastic work done. Manager must be delighted. And then today, I think he got it absolutely spot on. I'd be really interested to know if there's something wrong with Partey. Maybe he got back late. Maybe he's still carrying a knock or something. Because if we dial back, sorry, I said that. If we go back to the beginning of the game, when the team sheet was announced, I saw Jorginho on my timeline, and I thought this doesn't feel like a game for Jorginho because Chelsea's midfielders are high intensity. They press, they cover a lot of ground. They will put the Arsenal players under pressure. Players who are brilliant under pressure. Declan Rice, Martin Ødegaard, because he can wiggle and move his way out of it. But Thomas Partey as well. Thomas Partey is a line breaker. He's absolutely brilliant at splitting passes, and also he's also really good with the ball at his feet and with people putting him under pressure. It felt to me like the perfect game for that. Jorginho is a good player who wants multiple touches. He wants to keep the ball. He wants to have a few touches. He wants to see his periphery. He wants to scan, and he wants to play that pass. And it didn't feel like the right game for me. And Zinchenko as well, that move, going back to the subs in your original question, that decision to take him off at half-time was absolutely spot on because Zinchenko wasn't winning his duels. Raheem Sterling was very happy to go up against him. And as soon as Tomiyasu came on, I don't remember talking about or hearing about Raheem Sterling at all because Tomiyasu wins his duels. Now, Tomiyasu
Can I
playing
just
the
interrupt
Zinchenko
you
role.
just to back you up on something? Zinchenko, Mikel Arteta said we had to take Alex off because he was on a yellow and they were attacking him big time, and the rest as well. So really happy. I don't know what he means by that, but this is just some quotes. So he obviously thought yellow card. We can't afford to go a man down.
Yeah, so that was the right call, but it was also the right call from a tactical perspective because, as I was saying, the only thing about Tomiyasu is when he came on, he's essentially playing the Zinchenko role by moving into midfield, which he's a bit awkward with. But I thought Tomiyasu did really, really well. I then thought actually Kai Havertz came on and was very good as well because suddenly we were going more direct and he was winning headers.
Yeah.
And he contributed towards that first goal because the ball's put up to him. He's taken a good touch. He's then all right. Or was it the second goal? I'm losing track now, but there was certainly. I mean, it was the second goal, yeah, in which he's had such a big impact because he's knocked the ball out to Saka and then Saka swung it in for Trossard at the back post. But yeah, I thought that his decision making for the subs was good, but I still think that his decision making for the first 11 was questionable unless something's happened to Partey.
Okay, so Emerson said Arteta got the subs right and Partey got back late and had a light training session yesterday.
Okay, well, maybe
Emerson will know these sort of things. So, and I think that's the reason because obviously he's going to play Partey. He'll probably play in Seville, won't he? Got an easy game on Tuesday night in Seville. So Merv, we're 2-0 down. He's made some subs, and then all of a sudden, the hero of the day. I bloody love Declan bloody Rice, honestly.
Yeah.
I can't rave about him every single pod. Chelsea can't stand him, obviously being ex-West Ham as well. Got booed a lot. He got stuck in quite a bit second half as well, which was brilliant. And then their goalie did a Raya. And as I said, they didn't play that well.
Yeah.
And he takes a shot. Thank God he didn't think about it and he just hit it. Because too many times I feel, Merv, that players think too much. Like Jesus does this. He'll bring a ball down. He should have hit it first time.
Yeah, no, I agree. Rice is a fantastic signing. It just is. I think on the pod I was on in the summer, I said, it's without doubt that's the player we must sign to really anchor the midfield, to drive forward. He's next England captain. He's kind of, it's. I'm not going to say like Tony Adams because one's a midfielder, one's a defender, but he's somebody that the whole team can look to and be built around over the next 5-7 years. If in the modern game you can keep a great player for 5 to 7 years. And yeah, he was just instinctive. It was instinctive. But he's the kind of player that will make a difference and will help change the course of games, I think. And he's got that in his locker. I mean, he did it obviously against United. He never gives up, and he's always. I won't say willing to get stuck in because that makes it look like he's a kind of an old-fashioned destroyer. But he's in the action. He looks for the action, and he looks to influence the game. And that's what we were missing probably last season. That's what we were really missed in that run-in. Once we had a couple of injuries, is somebody who could really grab hold of a game and influence it. And I think he can do that. And I think he is almost like the kind of, I'm sure he's being trained to be or groomed to be the Mikel Arteta on the pitch, who's probably the person who will say, just the odd little word here and there. Look, we've got to do this more. We've got to do that more. And no, I think it's great. I think we're very lucky to have him. I hope we can keep him. And yeah, I mean, he changed the course of the game.
Can I just jump in quickly, Amanda? Just and this is thanks to Carl, who works his magic in the background, just sending us some stuff from Statman Dave. Declan Rice's game, 88% pass accuracy, 5 out of 8 long balls completed, 4 ground duels won, 3 tackles won, 1 key pass and 1 goal. That is a game-changing footballer, and that's £100 million well spent.
Absolutely. And also, I'm going to read something else that Carl has sent me. Arteta on fans chanting Ramsdale's name. Great. I love him. And I will sing as well for him every day. He's someone that has this charisma and personality, and he's very loved by the team. See how he swerves round. He's talking about the wonderful player, but he's not saying about, and of course he wouldn't. And also, so the goal goes in, Merv and Chris, and I'm sitting there going, I'll take 2-2 now. I don't care about the win. I just take 2-2. Please, God, just score another goal and you can blow the final whistle because we do not deserve anything. We just don't. I don't care what anyone says. We do not. And then I thought to myself at 2-1, there's only one more team the next team to score is going to be us. They looked shell-shocked. Their fans went quiet. They weren't that loud anyway, but obviously after 2-0 they were a bit. They don't even believe in their team. And we made more substitutions. Who else did come on? So we had Smith Rowe. Let's talk about Erdegaard actually.
Smith Rowe for Jorginho. Smith Rowe for Jorginho. Erdegaard came off. I think Havertz came on and Ketia came on. So the front three all got replaced. And then Smith Rowe for Jorginho as well.
I am disappointed in Erdegaard at the moment. Now, I said this to Carl, and you know how much we adore him. I'm just disappointed for him. Don't feel he's been playing exactly how we've been seeing him play. And Carl was saying he feels that's down to Partey missing. Do you agree with that, or do you just feel it's just a little bit of a moment for him?
No, I just there are games where the matches seem to pass Erdegaard by. It doesn't. He doesn't seem to deliver 6, 7s out of 10s. He's almost 8, 9, or 4 or 5 out of 10s. But what I will say, and this is why I love him, is that he delivers a hell of a lot more 8 or 9s than he does 4s or 5s. And I feel like it normally tends to happen away from home a bit. So I don't know if that's something for us to keep an eye on. But yeah, Erdegaard, like I say, I love him, and I will have to admit that today he wasn't at the races, and yeah, I just think when he's not connecting with Saka, I don't think Saka was that great either, to be honest with him. I mean, he still cropped up with a good cross and got another assist, end product merchant, Bukayo Saka. But I think a lot of them, Saka, did he look fit? I wasn't sure. Erdegaard, not really at the races. Didn't think this was a game for Jorginho. David Raya was poor. William Saliba and Gabriel looked shaky in that first half. Zinchenko hooked at half time. But the subs that came on, brilliant job. Trossard, brilliant. Tomiyasu, brilliant. Havertz, really, really good. Very, very happy with the changed the way in which Arteta was able to impact the game through the bench.
Which is something we've not been used to over the years, I will say. But I just want to talk about this point from Avon. Martin is having to pick up the ball from deep too often for my liking. I'd rather see him in withdrawn 9 at times. The further up the pitch he is, the better I think he gets. So, Merv, just adding on to what Chris said there, do you agree
Yeah.
with what Avon said?
I can see it. I think that he is the attacking drive, and I think he's the player that everything goes through. And I think that he probably is coming in some games deeper to collect the ball. Now that might be because Declan Rice is moving further forward. I think that will be solved by probably Thomas Partey coming back in. I think we all probably thought Partey, Rice, Ødegaard was the midfield when we signed Rice. So maybe we're building up to that, because obviously there's been an injury, international breaks and stuff. But there are games, as Chris said, and towards the end of last season, as we noticed it, where he's kind of not necessarily getting heavily involved. A game seems to pass him by a bit. And it's possibly, in some respects, it's not as noticeable. Whereas you see last season, we would have probably struggled to come back. But from 2 down, but with Rice there, we've got another midfield driver who can keep pushing. And I think Tomiyasu obviously was important to come on because we as we've said, Zinchenko was having a difficult game. So I think that that's what he does, and I think he does drift in and out sometimes. And all I can say is whenever I drop him from my fantasy football team, he goes on a scoring run. So it's kind of,
get him out then, get him out of that team.
Possibly. I've got to say one thing to Phil Macker, who's asked why I keep saying if we hold on to Rice. I have no reason to think Declan Rice will go. He's only just joined us. It's just, and I can say this with Amanda, it's going back from a history from Charlie George and Ray Kennedy through Liam Brady to even players like Thierry Henry and stuff. Is just that we have a habit of our star players somehow being picked off. Now, sometimes it's because we can't maintain the consistency, and I genuinely believe we are entering a period of 5 to 7 years of challenging every year. I hope I'm not putting a damper on it, but no, I believe we are. But obviously, the better we do, the more players like Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka are going to be looked at by teams like Real Madrid and stuff, and who knows, but in 5 years' time, we might all be playing in the Saudi Arabian-backed Global Premier League of football or something.
But no, I understand that from Phil's young, Merv. We're not young. So we've been there when all the players, like remember Frank Stapleton left and all these players, we were heartbroken. I mean, I was heartbroken when Anelka left. So it's sort of once bitten, twice shy, young Phil. That's why Merv is saying that.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 2-1. I'm going to Carl. I'd bring on Trossard. Carl's going, this isn't a game for Trossard. Then I said, I'd take Saka off because I didn't think Saka was doing it. And I mean, obviously, I adore Saka. But yeah, he puts a ball into Trossard that was so sublime, Chris, that you can never take that boy off. You just can't take Saka off. Even if he's not, having a 9 out of 10 game, he's having a 6 or a 7. As you said, that end product.
Yep, he was absolutely brilliant. But again, I go back to in the build-up, there's a ball up, it's Havertz wins it, he touches it to Saka, and then Saka putting it in the back post. Really, really good movement from Trossard as well. And it's something that Martinelli wasn't doing as much. So Martinelli was sticking a lot wider. He was hugging the touchline. He had the old white chalk on his boots because he was trying to hug the touchline, because that's how we play. Whereas Trossard likes to be a bit more inverted, and so it was a more natural sort of run to the back post that we didn't see a lot of. Although that may have been because Saka wasn't getting into those positions to put the ball in like that. But yeah, as soon as he's darted into the back post and he's got that touch, absolutely brilliant. And that is just, I think we talked about it just before we went live. Troy Deeney talked about Arsenal players and cojones a number of years ago, but you can't dismiss the character of this team in that, to bring that back to 2-2, because that was not a good Arsenal performance for 3/4 of it. But for the last quarter, they stepped up. I think goals change. I mean, it's a boring cliche, but goals change narratives and dynamics of football matches. And as soon as Declan Rice bagged that goal, that changed everything. The impetus was with us, and I thought we were absolutely brilliant in that last sort of 10-15 minutes. And we are becoming quite good at scoring late goals last season and this season, and it's a very, very good trait to have. I want to get you guys' thoughts on it as well. But actually, if you guys talk about the goal first, because then if we can touch on, because I've seen a couple of questions about were Chelsea any good, and you look at some of the stats. I'm looking at them just on my second screen here, and if you look at some of those stats, looks like we've actually outplayed them slightly.
Well, I said it all along. I didn't think they were very good. I just thought we weren't very good. So for me, the goal, I mean, I went into shock. I just went from 10 minutes before thinking we're going to have the most miserable podcast. It's just going to be awful in half an hour time. And the fact that we've, all right, we're not going to be invincibles, I assume, but it's just nice to keep that bit going. But Chris, this is the new age Arsenal of coming back from an absolute dire. I feel like we didn't deserve anything. I really do. And maybe looking at it now, maybe a draw was a fair result overall, but I really couldn't fight that corner quite hard.
Can I give you some of the stats and then we'll let Merv jump in? So Arsenal's possession was 56.8 to Chelsea's 43.2, so we had more of the ball. Total shots, Chelsea created 11, we created 13. They had more on target, 5-3. We had more off target. Our passing was better than them. We created one clear-cut chance. They had none. We had more corners. They had more offsides. They actually won more tackles. And normally when you see teams winning so many tackles, it's normally because they're the ones that are defending. I think probably if you looked at the stats on 75 minutes, it probably said a lot different, because I think we just took control of the game in the last 15 minutes. And Merv, I'll bring you in because I'm going into waffle mode. But as Phil just said, we made them look good.
Yeah, I think we did. It was interesting because Sky keep putting the stats up at different times in the game, and you could see at one point Chelsea's stats did look a lot better than ours, but when they were showing the stats in the last 15 minutes or so, ours were far superior. And I think that we probably did, but I think, Chelsea, I don't want to give them too much latitude here, but they're a team who obviously have had a couple of difficult seasons, a lot of instability, and they've got a manager who we know is probably a good manager, and it's probably taken him 9-10 games to actually instill into them how he wants them to play. And I think we were probably the first game this season that, certainly for the first hour, they were actually playing the way their manager probably wants them to play, pressing us, not giving us any time, moving the ball quickly upfield when they won it, and that we probably weren't expecting that. Gradually, as we got ourselves back into the game, and certainly from the first goal, if anybody was going to win that game, it was going to be us, and that's how I felt. That I was obviously delighted when Trossard scored, but I wasn't shocked because I was expecting an equaliser at that point. At some stage, I didn't know it would come then, but I didn't think once we got the first goal, I didn't think we would lose the game. But yeah, I mean, their stats were probably better than ours after an hour, but then we really got a foothold in the game. The subs made a big difference. I noticed a comment coming up about why bringing on Smith Rowe at that point, which was an interesting one because I wasn't expecting him to come on at that point. I realised with Eddie, Gabriel Jesus wasn't getting much change, and we needed somebody who was going to be a runner to stretch the defence. So I could see that. Although Smith Rowe put in a fairly solid performance, it was interesting that it wasn't Partey with Ødegaard maybe being pushed higher up, or I don't know if there's something behind the scenes that there's a reason why he's maybe not playing certain players or giving others chances to try and change the shape of the game. But I definitely think once once Rice scored, it was all us. And there's, as you say, the stats in our favour were very much that last 15-20 minutes.
But Merv, did we ever have stats in the 80s? I just go on what I think I see. So I don't really take much notice of possession in this. We didn't play very well for 75 minutes, regardless of the other team. I don't think Chelsea played brilliant, but they were a tiny bit better than us. I don't look at possession and all these goals things and everything. I just go and go, yeah, we didn't turn up. We couldn't string a pass together. I think just because I'm old. But
Well, if any of the guys I've been going with for most of my adult life are listening, they'll know that even 25 years ago, I was the one saying that's the third time this season that we've had 5 shots against this and that. And it's how do you know that? Well, I don't
you're the
know. I
stat
remember
man.
it. Yeah. So it's I love the stats because they can tell a story, and obviously you can get them to tell the story you want them to tell. But I mean, it's noticeable, as Chris said, that obviously the improvement in the last 20 minutes or so showed that if that game went on another 5 to 10 minutes, we would have won it.
I do believe that. I do
Mm.
believe that. But I was sitting there praying that he'd just blow the whistle and we just get a point from a game that I don't feel we deserve to get a point from. However, should we go to Christians? Chris, should we go to questions?
Yeah, let's go to some questions. So Lynn Simpson can be first up. First decision, I think we should have had a penalty because it deflected off of a Chelsea player. Yeah, this is an interesting one we didn't talk on. When the Arsenal, when Sanchez clattered into Gabriel Jesus, I think it was, and he went
I
down.
called it a penalty. Yeah.
Thought it was a penalty, but no one said this either. In the replay, I feel like I'm the only person that seems to have seen this. Thiago Silva has got a big chunk of Tomiyasu's shirt.
No, I haven't seen it.
Watch it again and the replays tonight or something. But I watched that and thought, goalkeeper clattering into them. Sometimes they're given, sometimes they're not. Most of the time they're not. But shirt pulling inside the box, surely they can be saying, having a word in the ref's ear and saying he's actually he's tugged his shirt there in the box. That's a pen. But anyway.
There was a point I made actually that Thiago obviously escaped a yellow card when we don't know why. He then went on. I think he got his yellow card for a block on Jesus, which obviously had he had the first yellow card, he either wouldn't have been able to do or would have seen a second yellow.
Should have got a red, only yellow for that. We would have got a red, I guarantee. We just got a red. Any more questions, young Christopher?
Yes, one for you, Amanda, from your beloved Benny Blanco's hair. Is it a hit or a miss?
Oh, it's a miss. Because I'll tell you why it's a miss. Because every minute when Trossard was on, I thought it was Trossard running up and down the wing. I can't work out who it is. And then you got the blondies with Odegaard and Emil Smith Rowe. And when you get to my age and you've got glasses on and you're going, I kept going, that's Trossard. And he went, it's Ben White. I went, it's Trossard.
It's Trossard playing right back.
Listen, I love that Ben White is totally not into football. He's just not. He's just a very, very good player. That is his job. And if you watched him yesterday and all his Instagram and the fact that he's dressing like Hector, he is our Hector Bellerin. That's what I said. Good luck to him, but not for me. I want him to change it back.
Maybe it's a right back thing. Merv, Emerson, Alan, Cozier, do you think that Nketiah should have done better with his half chance? That was right at the end, 2-2, and then he just sort of swung his leg at it. What do you reckon?
Yes, obviously, because I wanted to win the game. But I probably, had it been 2-1, then and finished 2-1, that's what we would have been talking about most of the time. But I think the fact that we'd got back to the 2-2 and were relieved, it probably, I think he should have done better. But I think it's kind of, it hasn't been a big point because we came back to 2-2. As I said, if it was 2-1 at that point and we'd lost, then I think that would have been a major point. And I've noticed something flash up before I say anything, that apparently Declan Rice has said that David Beckham was his inspiration for that goal.
Oh, wow.
I don't know how or why, but
it wasn't as good as David Beckham's
flashed up
goal,
on my screen. Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm with Phil. I thought Eddie did fab with that chance. I just thought he was unlucky, if I'm honest. I thought it was quite an awkward position he was in. At least
I
he
agree
went
with
for
you.
it.
Yeah, I agree with you. And do you know what? So the ball goes over the top, and Nketiah is behind Thiago Silva on the chase, and because of his pace, and because Thiago Silva is like 400 years old, he gets to it, and he's that far wide that the best he can do is just swing a leg at it. So it's not like like he was through and he had control of the ball. It was a swing a leg at it and have a hope for it. But that was, yeah, I'm with you on that one. I'm going to answer this next one, and then I want to get you guys as well, because I've got some thoughts on this. What went wrong in the first 70 minutes today? Tactical, or players not performing, or something else? So I'm going to talk about the tactical thing, because I think interesting comments in the comments about Partey and Odegaard liking to play in between the lines, and perhaps that could have made a difference. But I also think that Chelsea, and I think Rice might have said it afterwards as well, Chelsea actually, what happened is they went 1-0 up early, and then they effectively decided to compact the game. So they were essentially doing, Gary Neville said it in commentary, like the banks of four, and they just tightened and squeezed the middle of the pitch. And we had absolutely nowhere to go through the middle of the pitch. And I don't think our wide players were getting on the ball enough, and we weren't getting the ball quickly to them quickly enough. And I think that had an impact from a tactical point of view. What do you think on that, in terms of the way that Chelsea played? Because I don't think Chelsea are great, as you said, Amanda, but when you say that, you're talking about attacking wise, they weren't really great. But in terms of defensively, apart from in the last 15 minutes, they did shut us out quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, their game plan must have been just to catch us on the break, because they played very long. They were just blocking everything. And to be fair to them, they've not been playing well. So when you've got a team that's like joint top of the league coming to you, Pochettino's no mug, is he? I mean, he is a good manager, whether we like him or not. I think he is a good manager. And he knows Arteta well. They're very good friends as well. He's obviously studied the Arsenal quite a bit. And that's what you've got to do to us. You've got to stop us playing. And I get that. But Chris, we didn't play well anyway.
No.
So for me, it wasn't a tactical thing. I just think, as you know, like you said with Erdegaard, when he doesn't get a 6 out of 10, he'll get a 9 or a 4. I feel like that with the team sometimes. We're either absolutely terrible, or we're so good that we're just going to keep going and going. The reason we got that the draw is because of squad depth. So that's something we have really improved on in the last few years, that you can go, right, do you know what? This isn't working. Right, who we got? Oh, we got Emil Smith-Rowe, we got Trossard, Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu has to play in that team. I absolutely love Tommy. And you're sitting there and you're going, lovely. Who's coming on? Havertz. I have no issue with Havertz. You know, and I think it was so detrimental to us that we used to look at our bench years ago and go, well, who's going to change it? You know, but Merv, I'll let you answer if you think it was bad tactics or the fact that Chelsea did a job on us.
Chelsea did a job on us. And I'm not saying that because, I'm an Arsenal fan and therefore I can't admit when we play badly. We weren't quite at it, I think, for a part of the first half. Definitely, we were caught by surprise, and I think that the had that penalty not been given, and it would have been 0-0 into the kind of late first half, things might have been a bit different. But I don't think. I think Arteta's game plan was probably to just kill the game, hold it, and then probably the last 20 minutes, half hour, get some attacking subs on like Trossard and go and win the game. And just control the game. And of course, conceding early meant that went out the window. And so I think that it didn't quite go according to game plan for us. But even at 2-0 down, 10 minutes into the second half, I personally, and I know it's because I'm an Arsenal fan, I still felt that we could get something out of the game, because Chelsea weren't ripping us apart. If it was City or Liverpool on their day at Anfield or something, and we're 2 down already, it's going to be a Herculean effort to get something out of it. But I always felt we could. All we needed was one. We just needed to get one and to build as a platform to build some momentum on, which is kind of what happened. But I don't think it was tactics. I think Pochettino had set them up to play a certain way, which kind of stifled us a bit. And I think, again, post-international break, I don't know how much training some of the players have had since they've come back. I don't know how on top of fitness they are. And maybe, I don't know, I'm throwing this in there, people are talking, obviously, in the comments about should it be Ramsdale, should it be Raya? I wonder what Ben White and William Saliba and Gabs think. I wonder who they think should be in goal behind them. It would be interesting to know.
Yeah, really interesting. We'll do a couple more questions before we close. Before we do that, this podcast, and if you're watching it live stream, is sponsored by Ruth Beck Art. And Ruth is, I know, I don't know about you guys, but I've started to see, and I roll my eyes when I start to see the Christmas things going into Sainsbury's supermarkets. However, if it's Arsenal related, I don't mind it. So I'm just showing on screen a couple of the things that Ruth's got so that you can buy on her shop. So I would have a look at it, because if
But
you're
she's
thinking
also
about,
got all the Christmas stuff, Chris, but she's also got loads of Arsenal prints as well.
Yep.
So honestly, listen to what Chris is saying. She's our fantastic sponsor, and I was just about to get to it. You must have read my mind because she's on my list.
we are on the same wavelength. Do you want to
She's
do two
got
more
her
questions?
own.
Here we go.
Yes, but she's got her own Etsy shop as well. Go and support her because she's a massive Arsenal fan. She's a fantastic artist, and go and buy her Christmas cards. It'd be fantastic. Yeah, do a couple more questions, then we've got a couple of other bits to do.
Okay, so a really super quick one. Rating of the ref, because let's not go into the detail on that. Amanda, give him a rating out of 10.
4.
Merv?
5.
At best. Yeah, it wasn't a great performance today. Raya or Ramsdale for the next game? Quick fire one. Merv?
Personally, Rambo.
Amanda?
Oh, sorry, go on, Merv.
No. I mean, because the next game's Sevilla, I was thinking of
Sheffield United at home.
Yeah, because I thought it'd be a good one to bring him back for, because he was there. But the next game's Sevilla. But I would say Ramsdale, although that I don't know what that does to Raya.
So I'd play Raya because it's going to ruin his confidence if he gets dropped. And if he is going to be number one, we have to stick with him. He's not a terrible goalkeeper. He's just looking shaky at some points. And you can't just drop him, Merv, because if you do that, it'll ruin his confidence. So I'd stick with Raya, but I would stick with Raya for Sevilla and Sheffield United, then bring Rambo back for whoever's next.
See, I would go Sheffield. I'd happily say Raya against Sevilla, but then I would bring Ramsdale in. I mean, we talked about this just before the international break. What I would have done, but I guess Ramsdale's had a kid, so we'd never know if this would have happened. Is the international break was a good bookend mark, so maybe say, right, Ramsdale, I'm going to give you a block of games now, but whether that happens, I don't know.
A quick point on that. I'll just point out, of course, the game after Sheffield United is Brentford in the Carabao, which Raya won't be able to play in.
Yeah.
So Ramsdale, and then of course then we go to Newcastle. So I don't know then.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. One more quick one. Would you play Tomiyasu at left back against Sevilla instead of Zinchenko?
Yes.
Merv?
Possibly not, because of Zinchenko's greater European competition experience.
Yeah, I'd probably stick with Zinchenko, to be honest with you. But the next big game, if we're going to come up against a really tricky, nippy winger that's going to be isolated against Zinchenko, Tomiyasu for the duels. That's for me. Amanda, take us home.
I want a couple of bits. First of all, we need your Sevilla predictions. So, Christopher, what do you think? And Merv, and then obviously Sheffield United.
I think we're going to draw 1-1 against Sevilla, and then I think we'll beat Sheffield United 2-0.
2-0. Merv?
I'm going to say 1-1 Sevilla as well. I'm going to say 3-0 Sheffield United.
Okay. Unfortunately, I think we're going to lose on Tuesday night, and I'm going 0-1, but I think we will beat Sheffield United 1-0 on Saturday, and we'll get cookies in the week, and I'll put it in my book. Also in my book is just a quick question. Apparently Arteta got a yellow after the game. Does anyone know about this? Do you know why he got a yellow? No, maybe he's had a go at the ref. I'm just going to quickly put a few predictions up, and then obviously we need to finish with the fact of the passing of Sir Bobby Charlton. Legend is often given out very, very freely lately over the years, but Sir Bobby Charlton was an absolute legend of the game, and unfortunately he passed away. I think he was 86. Merv, do you remember him back in the 70s playing?
I do, and I remember I remember sitting in front of the first ever experience of colour TV, watching England win the World Cup as a little kid.
I wasn't born then, but my dad used to talk about Sir Bobby Charlton a lot, and I think he is just Mr. United, isn't he? He's just Mr. Football. So condolences to his family. May he rest in peace, and obviously, massive legend. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight, especially everyone on audio. Thank you so much. There's so many more of you listening now. We're very pleased that you're joining us. Please subscribe. Please rate us as well. It does mean a lot to us. I'm assuming Cookie will be back Monday evening to do a preview show against Sevilla. You really need to subscribe because Cookie's doing lots of preview shows where you can get involved as well. And James is joining him a lot. We're going to be back, probably next Sunday because we'll all be at the game next Saturday. So thank you all for joining us in the chat room. Merv, it's been an absolute pleasure to finally be on a
Thank you.
podcast with you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, you are welcome back anytime. Honestly, you are.
Thank you.
So all that's left to say is, Chris and Merv, it's always Arsenal. It's always Arsenal. Good night, everyone. Let me just go and find the music. Right. I wasn't ready then. Thanks, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Good night from everyone at the Same Old Arsenal podcast.